Hello and welcome to your Wednesday Advanced Training webinar. My name is Jared Krebs. I'm coming at you live from San Antonio, Texas. Glad to be back home. And before we get started with our special guest today, I want to remind you of 10 things to expect while building your USANA business. Number one, there will be ups and downs. Number two, success or failure is up to you. If you succeed, it's because of you. If you fail, it's because of you, not because of the person who invited you to USANA. Number three, the goal is for you to become independent and be an independent leader for your team. Number four, make your plan on the weekends. Do it, review it, and make adjustments. Plan, do, review, adjust. Number five, it's going to take time. It's going to take 1 year to become competent at the skills. It's going to take 3 years to create a significant part-time income. It's going to take 5 years to become a significant earner and 7 years to become world-class. It's going to take time. Number six, it takes consistency, work, and hustle. Number seven, you're going to have to grow outside of your comfort zone and do Facebook Lives, get a ring light. Number eight, mental toughness is necessary for sure. Number nine, the grass is not greener in other companies. I've seen people leave USANA and never make what they made with their USANA business. And number eight, this is a long-term game. USANA is 26 years strong with over $2.5 billion paid to its associates around the world. It's helped me and my wife, Crystal, have a full-time income for over a decade, as well as thousands of people, not just in the United States, but all over the world, hundreds of thousands of people having a part-time income as well. And the last thing I want to say is always remember that professionals sell the vision. Amateurs sell products. Professionals sell the vision. And very few have done it as well as Foundation Executive, Diamond Director David Delavante out of Washington, D.C. He's here today to share his story with you. David, thank you so much for being on our call today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I've watched you from afar for many years, and so I'm excited to hear your story today. And we want to just basically hear what your life was like before USANA. What were some of the challenges you faced and who introduced you? What were the things you overcame to build your business to a successful level? And also, what's your life like today thanks to your USANA business?
Well, thanks, Jared, for having me. I appreciate it. First of all, I want that list of 10 bullet points emailed to me immediately. I got so excited I want to start my business over again. That was
That's awesome.
Phenomenal. And even the time frames fit a little bit with my story, so you'll kind of get a flavor for that in just a minute. But yeah, I was school met my up because I just got back. Last weekend was my 40th high school reunion, and wow, what a trip that was. And my wife was the youngest looking person there, thanks to Tel Aviv and USANA. So that was that was pretty awesome. But anyway, I was the youngest of 6 kids, ultra analyst introvert type. Could not didn't like talking to strangers, very, very shy. It kind of fit in with my early career because I got a full ride scholarship to a very rather interesting school called Webb Institute of Naval Architecture. So it was, if you got in, it was a full ride. That's the way it worked. And I became a naval architect and marine engineer, and I did that for 23 years. So early in my career, so basically as soon as I graduated college, got married to Trish. We celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary just last month, actually. And so that was great. But Trish had some health challenges. I won't use words for the sake of being being compliant. I'll just say she had severe fatigue issues. Let's put it that way. But this went on for about 14 years. And so we were battling with this. And that's how we learned about nutrition. And this was long before we knew about USANA. But we started looking for, chiropractors and acupuncturists, massage therapists, every kind of nutrition you could think of to get her better. And we were struggling and mixing and matching. And I remember before we found USANA, it was she was taking 20 different supplements from 6 different manufacturers. So we were just guessing, what to take. And we hadn't heard about USANA yet. So so my wife, she's funny. She calls me Golden Boy, okay, because she says everything always just works out for me, right? And it did. I got a free college, I got free ride to college. I got an amazing job. I had a 23-year career in naval architecture. Worked my way up to a program manager. Was making the six-figure income. Had the 401k and the whole bit. And kind of, I was also the youngest of six kids, and I was the only one that went to college. So you think in my mind where I was at, I was like, I'm the quote unquote successful one in the family, right? Out of all the family members. And so along comes, my wife's been sick for 14 of those years. And of all people, it was my sister that had a great result with USANA. She had some issues, health issues, and her quality of life was able to improve. So she calls me up, and we're 14 years different in age, so she's almost a different generation from me. We're not that close, but she's down in Florida, and she calls me up, and I don't even know what she's talking about. She says, "I got some products. I think they can help Trish, and we have this guy named Dr. Wentz." And I'm like, "I've never heard of this guy named Dr. Wentz, but you seem very excited about this, obviously." But being my older sister and me being kind of proud, I was like, "Well, no, we've tried everything. Nothing's going to work." And I basically blew her off completely. Right. And so there's lesson number one for new distributors: be prepared to be blown up by your family members. Right. So I'm like, no. And she persisted for 3 months. Okay. And then let's be brutally honest here. I found out that they were sold through network marketing. Right. And then I said, I had a big objection to network marketing. So I said, I don't want to touch anything that's involving network marketing. So she sent me the most clever email I've ever received in my life. It said, "Do you mean to tell me you would deprive your wife of superior nutrition based on the method by which it was marketed?" I was like, "Oh, okay, you got me. All right, so now I have to try the products." So she mailed up. This was 21 years ago, by the way. So she mailed up Essentials and Proflavanol and Biomega. That's the three. We didn't have Coquinone then. So she sent those up, and Trish got on the products and saw a significant improvement over the first 3 days, 4 days, like just subtle changes, but significant enough where we said, wow, this is different. This is kind of working here. And by the 90-day mark, Trish literally went back to doing choreography and dance and things that her quality of life, her lifestyle just exploded. She was back to doing things that she was doing 14 years before in college. So it was an outrageous, we were like, so I'm not claiming healing or curing. I'm just saying, wow, quality of life was, just incredible. So that was kind of the health journey part of it. So this is back in 1997, all right, late 1997. Now, keep in mind, I've got this mindset of I work for the man. I'm a corporate person. I've been doing this. Got the 401k. I'm stable or whatever. And I didn't really have an interest in the business side of this. But she mentioned a few things about, hey, but what if you got laid off? How long would that 401k last? She sort of started painting the picture of what pain looked like. Because some people don't realize they have a need. If you have an ache or a pain in your body, you realize it. But she was like, well, what if this happened? And it was just enough where I said, all right, I'll get one of those distributor kit things. But we still were basically product users. Okay, so this brings us to you mentioned the 5-year mark. So for 5 years, I played USANA small. I thought it's a hobby. It's a little something to do on the side. But there was not even an inkling of potentially doing this as a full-time thing ever. So we played it small. But what happens is when someone has a life-changing event like Trish did, people in our church, people in our neighborhood, they started noticing, and they would ask her, "Hey, what are you doing, man?" And they would mention, "Hey, I've got a kid with some issues, or I've got this or that." And Trish would say, "Hey, I don't know. It works for me. Let's try it or whatever." And we started really not knowing what we were doing, but we started getting preferred customers. And this happened over and over and over again. And then they started bringing customers in, et cetera, et cetera. It just started expanding, and it grew into actually a fairly significant income, a side income. I wasn't going to retire on this, but it grew into a fairly significant side income. But still being kind of proud of the business world, I was like, I'm not gonna do this network marketing thing for real. So anyway, so I was at an event, it was 5 years later. It was 2003, January 2003, and someone said we were at a restaurant after a USANA meeting, and someone said, "Hey, let's go around the table and say what our goals are." And you know how sometimes I feel like God just kind of implants a vision in you. And so Trisha's sitting next to me at this event, and they said, "Go around the table," and it came to me, and I have no idea, but I really believe God just plopped this in me. And I just stood up and I said, "I'd like to quit my job." And Trisha almost fell out of her chair. She was sitting next to me. She was like, "Huh?" Anyway, and then I sat down, and then the person who was kind of orchestrating this whole thing said, wait, stand back up again. That's not a goal. There was no time on there. There was no commitment to it. You just said you want to quit your job. When do you want to quit your job? And I said, 18 months. And again, that came out. And then Trish, I think, literally did fall out of her chair at that point, right? She's like, whoa. Watching the 100,000 income go away and the 401k go away. So anyway, we went home, and for some very practical reasons, I adjusted that to 2 years instead of 18 months. I said, all right, for 2 years, I said, Trish, let me just try it. Let me work my full-time job, and I'll do USANA on the side. And we'll see if I can get to the point where I can match my income, then we'll consider me, quitting my job. And there's a lesson here, because I didn't change any of my wording as far as, what's in perflavanol, or, what product does what, or whatever. I didn't change that, but my mindset made a fundamental shift. And the shift was that I was going to quit my job in 2 years. It wasn't, I'm going to try to quit it or whatever. So those same people that would come to me and say, my day job people, they would say, well, how's that little vitamin business of yours going? And whereas before I might say, yeah, it's going okay. I made a few $100 this week. Instead of saying that, I said, it's going great. In like 16 more months, I'm leaving here. And they were like, what? They would just they would lean forward, and it was like a natural, how are you going to do that? And I said, well, let's go have coffee. I'll show you. And it was simply a mind shift of, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. And when I started doing that, things just started falling in place, and I attracted better people. I attracted people that really wanted this business, and the same product people. I always attracted product people. I'm a very product driven person, because of my wife's testimony, but I started attracting these business people and started becoming more of a leader, and and duplicating and things like that. So this pattern went on and on and on, and I kid you not, it was 2 years to the day. It was January 5th of 2005, and I quit my job. And it wasn't like I retired. I quit. Okay. Because people go, oh, you must have been a military person. I wasn't a military person. I was working for a contractor. I didn't get a pension. I just walked away from my job. It was actually kind of fun, because my boss, anytime something was wrong, my boss would always say, would you mind if I close the door? Like, he'd come into your office and say, would you mind if I close the door? And then you knew they were not going to get bonuses this year, or something bad was, they were down. Something bad was going to happen whenever he said, close the door. And it was the most joyous experience of my life, because I walked into his office and I said, would you mind if I close the door? and that's when I walked in and told him that I was leaving. So that was my retirement. I was 44 years old, and I left the corporate world, and I've done USANA ever since. So if you fast forward, it's now, I've been with USANA almost 21 years. It'll be 21 years in February, that I've been with the company. Trish and I we're foundation executive diamonds. We made the $1 Million Club. We're well beyond 3 million at this point, but we've made the $1 Million Club a decade ago. We were on the IDC twice. We got to experience, and that's a part of USANA that I really treasure, because it's kind of that integral piece between corporate and the field, where you actually got to have some input, and that was a beautiful time. It's flexing. That was just a beautiful time for me. So it was a big thing. And now I've just got this entrepreneurial bug, and I told people. And by the way, that doesn't mean that for any guests that are listening that you have to quit your job. I have plenty of people. There are different reasons to be in USANA and different ways of satisfying someone. I have people that literally make $100 a week, and they've made $100 a week for 10 years and they don't want to make anything more than $100 a week. And they're really just happy to be there and happy to come to the meetings. And they're kind of doing it for the camaraderie and they just love the products. And then I've got other people that have a vision to quit their job. So you can be, and one of the lessons I learned was let your people be where they are. Don't try to take someone who's very, very happy as really just a glorified customer making a little bit of money. Don't try to take them and make them a diamond. Go out and find the ones that want to be diamonds, and then work with them. So when you fast forward to now, we got 4 kids. And by the way, back to products. Trisha's first 3 pregnancies were absolutely horrible. We had 3 colicky babies. The 4th baby was when Trish was on USANA, and guess what? Non-colicky baby. Just a fantastic pregnancy. The experience was wonderful. So, I mean, again, I could go on and on. So now we have 4 children, and now I have my first grandchild who's a little over a year old, and he's a USANA baby as well. So that's pretty exciting. I do real estate on the side. I've invested. A friend of mine had a vision for a coffee shop. He wanted a coffee shop that was a community coffee shop where people could get together, kind of like in the old show Cheers, where everyone knows your name when you walk in. He wanted that, but instead of a bar, have a coffee shop, right? And they have live entertainment. We have comedy shows, all this kind of stuff, whatever. And he just needed the money. He needed the money to, like, he had part of it. He just needed a certain chunk of money to start it. And I was like, I had sort of the same vision. It was something that really just spoke to me many years before. So now we're also investors in this coffee shop. And it's just, I live a completely different life. I'm in my car now. I'm really goofy with cars, by the way. I gotta tell you. I went out and did the, buy a Porsche thing. And of course it had to be the best, fastest one and all that kind of stuff. And then I literally, I would trade that and I would get an old Volkswagen Bug. And then I would trade that and I'd go back up to a Subaru WRX and I'd trade that. So now I'm in a little Fiat 500 convertible, little tiny car. But I love to drive. I love to be around people. And for me now, life is just an adventure. Like when I worked my day job, it was kind of like you worked your job and you just worked until you were done. You went home, whatever. You were kind of surviving for retirement or surviving for the weekend, which was your every week retirement, right? But there wasn't a lot of passion involved in it. And I had a great job. I mean, I was golden boy, right? Remember, I had great pay, great job and everything else, but it didn't light me up. And now I go out and every day is an adventure to go out and seek after people and find people that I can help. I mean, I can't think of anything better. So the big in all that very long-winded story, the lesson or the biggest lesson is, if you remember, I treated this small for 5 years. Then I found a vision. And when I found the vision, I set my goal. And 2 years later, I had more than doubled my day job salary and I left, right? But the lesson is you don't have to wait 5 years. Okay. So if you're a brand new person, when you come in, you can develop a vision, and people in USANA, they're really not buying a product, and they're not even really buying a business. They're buying you. They're trying to decide if you're worth teaming up with. And if you don't have any goals, if you're just kind of floundering, then guess what? They flounder right alongside you, right? You get a bunch of flopping fish, right? You don't want that. You want to have, people that are driven. So if you have when you start out, if you say, you know what, I'm going to try me a goal drive. I'm going to try, just name a number. I'm going to try and make $60K a year by the end of year 2. And I remember at the beginning of this, you said it takes 2 years to develop those serious skills. So don't say you're going to do it in a month, but say, okay, in 2 years, I got this goal, right? And then that's your goal. You own it. So when you talk to a new person, go ahead and tell them, when they say, well, what kind of business is this? Or how are you, you're in there, you're in a month, right? And they go, how much have you earned so far? That's always the question you're afraid to get, right? When you're brand new. You say, well, my goal is in the next 2 years by let's say November of 2020, I'm going to be making $60,000 a year. So I'm going to go ahead and quit my job. Then they go, what? They move forward instead of you cowering and saying, well, I'm just starting, so I haven't made too much yet. You start backtracking, right? You do that kind of thing. So if you have a strong enough vision, you can set that now in place, and you don't have to wait 5 years like I did. And the benefit for me was once I finally made that decision and I left my job, consider this, I was 44. All of a sudden I became, and I'll close with this. I became the dad that was at everything. Okay. So I was at every swim meet for my son. every soccer game for both of my sons. And there was always not to be too stereotypical, but the moms were always there, and there'd be one or two dads that you would see every once in a while, like sporadically in and out or whatever. But I was the dad that was there every single game. I actually got to watch my kids grow up, and I got to watch, so I got to spend that time. And as I said, then when I am in business mode, it's kind of an adventure. It's not a hassle. It's not a job, if you will. So I just tell people, when you start out, get that vision set, kind of early. Really, really get it deep in your gut, so that and be able to expound on it, and don't be afraid to say, oh yeah, and put a date on. When you put a date on it, sounds very specific. So by November, because we're in October now, so let's say by November of 2020, my goal is to make $60,000 a year and leave my job. Okay, you say that to someone, they're gonna do this. They're gonna lean right forward, right? And that's what you want to do. So anyway, I hope that helps. I know I'm a little long-winded, but I talk real fast because I'm from New York originally.
Cheers to you, David Delavante. Cheers to you, sir. So
I don't have my Rev with me.
Oh man.
Thank you, Jared.
So first of all, wow. I love what you just said about having a story with like a deadline, so you can tell people, like you just said, in 2 years from now, I'm going to be quitting my job. Yep. And like, or having the date, and just keep saying it, because it seems like in my career too, it's like when I've said it and said it and said it and said it and said it, then it's like the momentum happens, and I draw more people in it. And over those times, it's like all these people are coming to me because I said it first,
Mm-hmm. It's like self-fulfilling.
Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy. That's such a great one. So that's what I've learned. That's been like my highlight so far from listening to your story. But I also love how like your life is so exciting and you're enjoying your life, and USANA's kind of giving you that fire, and you're also able to do other entrepreneurial activities as well. So this has just been such a great story. Thank you for sharing. We have lots of questions that are coming in. So let's go to our questions here. We have our first question from Randy Krebs in Salt Lake City. What is your current method of building your business? I love your energy.
It's really just going out there and making relationships. So someone told me, do the things you love. So like, for instance, I love playing pool. I played pool when I was in college, and so I got back to it. I found a meetup group that had pool players in it. Right. And what does that give you? It gives you a chance to talk to 20 people every Friday night and get to know them, get in a relationship with them, et cetera. So affinity marketing, they call it. Some people like golf. Some people like, so do something that you love, so that way you don't feel like you're working. That's one of them. But I also, I kind of work with my people's people. So, and I'm a little bit of maybe to a fault, I'm a little bit of a hand holder. So when I get someone new and I say, okay, let's talk to some of your people, I always engage myself with their people for the first 3, 4, maybe even 5 times, so that I'm working with their people right away, and do that. I don't do, I use social media to a small amount. What I mean by that is I'm very cautious. Social media is a tool. So I use it just like I would use elevator speeches. I use it, I comment on other people's things in a positive way. I try to, for instance, I found someone that was actually went to grammar school with me. Now we're talking. We're going back past high school, and I found him and just started having conversations. And by commenting on his stuff and everything else, he started looking at my Facebook page and was like, well, "What's this USANA thing you're doing? I don't understand this," And it opened up, and I immediately took that off the Facebook page and over to direct message. We started messaging with him, and finally got his phone number, called him up, and then engaged him that way. So I use that as a tool, but it's really just a tool for kind of putting the pieces together and kind of developing the web, if you will. But I don't use it. It's not magic, put it that way. You have to eventually get on the phone and close some kind of a deal in there. So I use that to a certain extent, but mostly I'm pretty much a warm market kind of guy.
Man, great tips. I love the affinity marketing thing. You're meeting people. I've never heard it called affinity marketing, but that word affinity is so true. I sign up all my people from like my salsa dancing, my Course in Miracles, my hobbies. Anyway, that's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Next is Phyllis Walker from Salt Lake City asks, how do you handle meetings, laptop or newspaper?
That's interesting. I'm such an old school guy. That Health and Freedom newspaper, I had it backwards, forwards. I could fold it inside out. I knew how to fold it so just the right stuff showed. I mean, I was like magic with that thing, right? So I really, really loved it. And then they split and they went to that the Be More magazine, and then the other, like, this was a year ago, the product magazine, and I wasn't quite as comfortable with that. Now they went to the I think it's called About USANA, which is a just a nice PDF, and I just use my iPad, but again, it's about stories and it's about them and their needs and wants and desires. So you have to engage them in it. So I'll flip up and I'll say, oh, this is Dr. Wentz. I'll tell a little bit about Dr. Wentz or whatever. But I always go right back to them and ask them a question. So what's your primary health challenge or your primary health goal? Okay. And they'll tell me that. So I'm gathering information the entire time I'm using it. So I haven't changed the way I do it. It's just a different method now because I don't have the paper. This is another lesson. Okay, so you got to keep in mind, I'm a left brain engineer, right? So I used to describe the entire compensation plan, every bit of it, to someone. And then I did a shortened version of that I thought was very, very clever. I thought it was very simple, right? And I actually met with a business coach, and he said, how do you do USANA? He said, okay, pretend I'm someone new. How do I do USANA? And I said, well, this is it. Here's your business center. Here's this and this. This is how the math works. Da, da, da. And he said, I didn't ask you that question. I asked, how do you do USANA? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, what do I do? Who do I talk to? What do I say? So when someone said, so here's the lesson. I signed up, this was last summer, and it was a really powerful month. It was about a month and a half. And I signed up 8 people, all right, 8 distributors. 7 of them never saw the compensation plan ever until after they were signed up. And then I showed it to them during a training or whatever. And one of them did. And the reason was these people said, well, how do I showed them all the products. They loved it. I said, hey, there's a great opportunity. If you'd like to share these products with others, there is an opportunity where you can earn some income. And I just talked to them that way, very generically, signed them up. And they never saw the comp plan. And when they said, how do I do this business? I said, well, what you do is you take the products, you enjoy them, you get a testimony for yourself, you find other people that might need the products, you put the first few in front of me, and I'll show you how to talk to them. And they were like, okay, that's easy. I could do that. And that was my comp plan. That was the comp plan. Now, the 8th person was more of the engineering type. And I said that same thing. He said, no, but I mean, how does the math work? Like, what does it look like? And I said, oh, I'd be glad to show you. And then I said, do you want the long version or the short version? He said, no, long version. I'm a left brainer too. So I showed him every detail of the comp plan, and he signed up also. But the other 7, I would have lost if I showed them the comp plan. So when I go through the Health and Freedom newspaper, or I go through this About USANA, I rarely get to that comp plan page. I cut it off short of there, because you're developing a relationship with someone. You're not trying to confuse the heck out of them, basically. I hope that answered the question.
Woo! Preach! This is great. This is great, man.
It's like I've done this before.
I hope everybody watches this over and over. This is like, you're dropping some knowledge bombs right there. I mean, again, it's about connecting with the prospect and just what you just shared. I mean, what I think I get the most out of the story is that you're constantly growing. You hired a business coach. You're learning. You're doing personal development. Even 21 years in, you're not just sitting on your laurels. Like, you're still out there learning and growing, and that's such a great example to everyone on this call. Thank you for that, and I can certainly tell that your people are very lucky to be working with you. So this is awesome. Thank you, David. We have let's see, 2 last questions. I'm gonna put them together so we can kind of finish on time. So Jared Harris from Salt Lake City asks, what is one way that you attract people to buy you? Okay. And then Randy Krebs says, what is your favorite business development books?
That's cool. The way you attract them to you is, first of all, by loving on them, by listening to them, by being more interested in them. That attracts them to you. But then what makes them buy you is your goal, is that the very thing we talked about, that vision that's in your gut, not in your head, but in your gut. They can see that you're going somewhere. That's what they're buying. They're buying the voyage. The journey is what they're buying. And then I'm so glad Randy asked this, but I've got I'm doing books on Audible now, and all of a sudden I got back into this. The last one it's Brendan Burchard is the very last one that I just started. And I'm now, darn it, I can't remember the name of it. But so anything by Brendon Burchard, fantastic. And maybe I can put it in the notes. If this is going to be on Facebook Live, I think you said.
Yes.
I'll get it to you. I'll stick it in the notes. Obviously, Dennis Wadley is fantastic. I've been doing. I'm a Christian, so I do a lot of spiritual development type books as well. But I think as long as you are, here's the problem: if you drive along in your car and you put on the news is just going to drag your butt down. Okay, I listen to maybe 5 minutes of news a day just so I can kind of keep tabs on what's going on in the world, so I can be I can be conversational with somebody if they ask, so I don't look ignorant about what's going on. Right? I don't want to be a hermit. But anything more than that, I mean, it's just dragging you down. Same with Facebook. Limit your time. I set a 15-minute timer. I use Facebook to my advantage. I learn from it. I develop quick relationships, whatever. But you don't want to go down the trail where you're 2 hours of watching kitty cat videos. You don't want to go down the trail of getting bitter about politics or religion. All these traps, right? So just be cautious about what you fill your brain with. So now, like I said, every time I'm driving, I either listen to the Bible on tape or I say tape. That tells you how old I am. Okay. On the app. Okay. Or I'm listening to Audible and I'm listening to one of those audiobooks. And that's how, and yeah, you're right. Always keep learning. It's like Woody Allen said, a relationship, his girlfriend was breaking up with him and she said a relationship is like a shark. It has to keep moving forward or it dies. And I think what we have here is a dead shark. That's her way of breaking up with them. That's a joke. But that's the same way with our businesses. You got to keep moving forward and life too. I mean, I also don't believe in the idea of retirement. I think retirement is just a curse. I know too many people that retire at 65 and at 67 they die because they sit on a couch. You need to have a vision. You need to constantly be improving yourself and constantly moving forward. That's what living is. So.
Wow. David, my man, this is so good. I mean, everything you say was just like boom, 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 knowledge bombs everywhere. Like, I can't even like put them all together. They're so good. I'm going to have to watch this again. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share your story, your experiences with us. We really appreciate it. And we're going to end this call like we always do. We're going to unmute the lines and everyone say thank you, David, and have an awesome day.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, guys.
I'll call you, David. I'm going to call you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.